Right, we've got a Citroen C3 Aircross 2018 coming, oil light comes on, system malfunction, etc. on the dashboard. Scan for codes. We've got codes here about the oil pressure too low within the oil pump itself. Now, we took the sump panel to have a look, and these engines run on a Wetbelt system, and we found that the oil strainer is completely blocked. Now, this material, through here you can see the timing belt runs inside the casing of the engine, and it breaks down. So where it's breaking down, obviously it's blocking the sump pickup. So we've had to remove the engine because we need to get this oil pump out to replace it for new. And the only way to get this oil pump out is to remove this intermediate sump, which is fine. However, in the wisdom of the engine builders, there are bolts behind the flywheel that hold this on, or intermediate sump on. So you've basically got to strip down the entire engine to change this oil pump. Now, a lot of people would say, well, you can just clean that out, which fine, you could, but this is a warranty job, so it's got to be done properly. And I'm not happy with leaving, because you can't see around here, you ain't gonna be able to get into here to clean it out anyway. And I'm not happy leaving an oil pump that has had potentially bits of a rubberized belt mashing together inside it. As when we put it back together, we don't want premature failure of the pump. So we're going to do the pump. We're going to change the belt, obviously, if it's breaking up. Now this car's got 40,000 miles on it, so you can see they're not built to last. And in this case, they apparently in 2018 they upgraded the belts, so they didn't do this, but this is out of a 2018 plate car, so I'd imagine it's an older engine. So if you've got full codes like this, where you've got your oil pressure light coming on, it's worth taking your sump off to have a look at your pickup, because as you can see, the contamination is quite severe. So, and it's one hell of a job to sort this problem out. Luckily enough, it happened and they've stopped the car, so we shouldn't have any issues with big ends and things like this, oil starvation, but we will clean everything out anyway while we're here. So we're going to get this off, and then we'll have a look at the oil pump, and then we have to strip the top of the engine down completely to get access to the cams to put our locking tools on, so we can do our belt. So we'll get this off and we'll come back and have a look at where we are in a minute. Right, so we've got our bottom sump pan off. We'll see the bottom of the engine now. Taken out timing chain, or timing belt should I say. Locked up the engine. The tools, obviously the bottom end is locked up through the hole in the flywheel, but it goes through that. So when you remove it, you have to be careful moving that. So our belt's out. If you look at this belt, it's seen much better days of cracking on it. This is a 40,000 mile engine, and you can see where it's stripping the pieces off, which are then blocking the oil pump, as you can see. Now you can see why we need to change this oil pump, because it's quite stripped down. But now we're going to put our new pump on, clean up obviously our faces, because this is all infant gasket, so clean our faces, put an oil pump on, that chain, put the cam belt in, and then start rebuilding. So yeah, we'll get this done and come back and have a look where we are. Right, so fit an oil pump and put our intermediate sump back on. See, clean all the surfaces, new sealer. So you can see, nice clean gauze. So now we can put our bottom sump back on to protect the pump, and we'll start doing our belt through this hole, and then we can start putting the top back together. So get the sump on, start doing our belt, and then we'll come back. Okay, so got a new belt kit, tensioner and that fitted now. So looks damn sight better than the old belt. So we've rotated it a few times, make sure it all locks back up again on the head and the crank, all good. So now we can start cleaning the rest of this off of here and clean off the other face on here. Get this all cleaned up as well, and then we can reseal it and get it back on. Once we've got this back on, we're going to look at starting putting injectors and things back in. So we're going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, back on, and we'll go from there. Okay, so started to rebuild it. I'm pretty much there now. Got our top casing on, rocker cover back on, injectors back in, spark plugs, core packs back in, everything on top of the engine, the wire and loom plug back in. Put a new clutch on it because, believe it or not, after 40,000 miles, this clutch was almost dead. Been riding it. Side plate, I'm going to leave this business off until we get it back in the car. So, put our gearbox on now. Get that bolted up, put a new fresh release bearing in it. Gearbox back on, and we can run our loom around the side. It comes round to the battery, etc. Get the cap back on as well, and then hang it back up, and we'll swing it back in the engine. So I'll put the rest of the bits and pieces on, and we'll get it hung in the engine, and we'll come back. Right, engine refitted, fluids refilled, etc. We've now run it up, oil pressure's back to normal, no fault codes, it's been test driven, so all good now. So if you get fault codes to do with the oil pressure in this particular engine with that Wetbelt system, it's definitely worth pulling some panel to have a look. If you find obviously bits of the belt broken off, it's going to be an engine out job, ideally, to change that oil pump. As I said, it's got 40,000 miles on this engine, really poor design. So yeah, job done, should run lovely now, but again, you might have to keep tabs on that belt. The updated belt apparently shouldn't break up like the older ones do, but we'll see what happens over time. So another job done, happy days.